Greetings, everyone. Core here. Time for another midnight review and first, second, third one of the year, I believe. Which is Pacific Rim, which originally this Pacific Rim Uprising, which is the second one, in case you didn't realize it with the subtitle. Um, what you got to say right off the bat, it's an enjoyable movie. There's nothing. I felt like the first one was a lot more deeper, at least as far as the characters and their development and stuff. This one was more definitely focused more on like the kaiju's battles and all the fighting and stuff like that. So it's definitely action packed for sure. So it does have that going for it, which it does it really well. I think it blends the cockpit, their movements, their fighting, their you know abilities pretty well to the Jaegers and then even the kaiju's. How the Jaegers are a lot more faster. They're a lot more sleeker. They're more durable, and as far as durable as you could get for human technology. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. It's just not as deep as the first one, so don't expect anything too deep. It doesn't expand the universe too much. It does expand it somewhat, but it it doesn't go too crazy. It definitely knows what it is. It's a giant monster robot battle, so it does that well. But let's get into the details. So overall, if you want to see an action movie, giant fighting monsters that take you back, especially if you've seen a lot of anime stuff with mechas and everything, it definitely is suitable and is enjoyable to see in the big screen for sure. But you could definitely wait until it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff like that. But overall, it is an interesting movie because the first one I liked a lot. Like I've said before, I liked Guillermo del Toro, which he directed and helped write and pretty much helped create the whole universe and the monsters and everything from the first one. Where this one he's not directing again, he's producing. He's handed the reins over to what's his name, Stephen S. DeKnight, which is interesting because he has no directorial movies under his belt except for this one. This is his first directorial movie. He has directed some TV shows which are pretty interesting. A couple Angel episodes, Smallville, Dollhouse, and Daredevil. He's written more than he's directed and produced as well. And it's interesting to see his background, which he has some interesting background, but he's only done a couple episodes, and like I said before, it doesn't the character it's not as deep as the first because the first, the characters, every character had all the main characters pretty much had their moment, had their background, had their story to tell, and this one pretty much has two characters. If you could really call them characters too much. I mean, there's some there's more information given about these two characters, which is John Boyega's character Jake, and Kaylee Spaney, sorry, which is Amara, which if you've seen the trailers, she's the young girl that pretty much is piloting the single pilot Jaeger that's running. And John Boyega, of course, everybody knows from mostly Star Wars, but also he was in Attack the Block before that, which I loved Attack the Block. Edgar Wright, movies are always awesome in my eyes. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see him, follow up in Elba's. He's the son of Isaac Elbas from the first one, and it's interesting to see pretty much his following because he's the son. So, like I said, it's just interesting because it's like you're living up to this big, war hero that pretty much saved everyone. Well, part of saving everyone, he helped, but he didn't do the original explosion in the rift and shut it. But he was there, of course, during it, and it's interesting to see, of course, the shadow. It's the whole, father figure being this great hero, and he can't quite live up to it, but he does want to prove it because he does have it in him, and we've seen it, of course, and it works pretty well. I do like the banter. I do like the writing that he has with the other, pretty much the other ranger, which is Scott Eastwood's character Nate. and they were the two pilots of Gypsy Avenger, because Gypsy Danger was destroyed in the first one. So they made a second one because it is a really cool design. And they had fighting, and they John's character's pretty much left. And it's cool to see, this takes place 10 years after the first movie, so you get to see what happened afterwards, but it doesn't go too in depth. 10 years is a lot, and I think a lot definitely happened, and it doesn't quite go that deep into it, but it goes enough to satisfy. Like I said, this movie is just, it gives you enough, for the premise. It doesn't, go too much into the backstory, because it's assuming you've seen the first, which is nice because it doesn't rehash old stuff, so it keeps the movie more leaner. Keeps it under 2 hours for sure. Yeah, so hour 51 minutes, which it felt a lot faster, a lot shorter than that for some reason. I guess because there's a lot of action stuff, but yeah, it's pretty good. Like I said, it's if you want to see the giant action, fighting mechas, kaiju battles, it's definitely a lot better than the action is a lot more than the first. The first one had more of a, if you've seen anime, the first one had more of a kind of a Big O feel. Have you seen Big O, which is more mechanical feeling, where this one seems more digital, more in tune to the neural system, where it would be more like, say, like Evangelica or even Gundam. How especially some of the later series, they have more movement. They're not as rigid as the first movie, pretty much a Pacific Rim, like how Big O is. Big O is very rigid in the movements, so that's a good comparison, I would say. If you've seen anime, if you haven't seen anime, what's wrong with you? There's something pretty much for everyone. But yeah, I'm interested to see where Kaylee goes, the young girl that plays in this movie, and see what movies she comes out in afterwards. She seems very talented. I hope the best for her. Scott Eastwood's character, does the military guy very well. He's pretty much is like typecasted almost in that scenario. John Boyega has his character was really fun. It's really interesting. We've seen the character, of course, 100 times, but the way he talks, the way his dialogue is, just works, really well. And I like it. I like the scenes that he has with, Scott Eastwood's character. They have some good banter, some good, talking, and some good jokes here and there, sprinkled throughout. The whole twist is not as big of a twist as you would think, because you kind of see it coming right before it happens, but you do see it coming. So it's not, a crazy twist like that. It does, like I said, try not to give too much spoilers, but there's really not too much you could spoil with this movie. It does kind of set up for a sequel, a third movie, which would actually be pretty interesting. I think, I love seeing, giant mechs fight kaijus. I even felt like, I would say, okay, so the final showdown, I don't know if it's too much of a spoiler, if you don't know, what Tokyo looks like, what Japan looks like, because, yeah, they kind of show it in the trailers, where they're fighting the big monster that combines, and when they're fighting, in Japan, the end destination is Mount Fuji, and I'm just thinking, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, it's a Universal movie. Universal did do a Godzilla movie, the King Kong movie. They have the kaijus, down, and I was just thinking, how awesome would it have been if just, as the Jaegers are, as the monster's getting close, is just overpowering and everything. It's just all of a sudden, just Godzilla just comes in and just, kicks his ass, just like out of nowhere, just atomic breath, just strikes him, or saves the Jaegers, and then the Jaeger saved the day and stuff like that. I was just thinking, I was just waiting for that. I'm like, how awesome would that be if just Godzilla, literally Godzilla out of nowhere, and he just saves the day. And then, they somehow tie that into, the whole, monster universe, the kaiju universe. And you have, Pacific Rim with Godzilla, or Pacific Rim versus Godzilla, or Jaeger versus Godzilla versus King Kong versus, Kaiju, something, I think that would have been pretty interesting. Of course, they didn't. Granted, the final monster looks a little Godzilla-y, but he is a combination of three, so there's enough difference. But he does kind of look Godzilla-y. So that's that. Music wasn't too anything too outstanding, too unique. It fit, it worked. The visuals were really cool. Now they're fighting mostly in the daytime, so lighting, of course, is more light. You get to see more. Granted, I did like the nighttime stuff. Like I said, the first one felt more the camera, the way Del Toro wanted to do it. He wanted to do cameras that seemed plausible, that were on the scene. And this one, they definitely do take it back. They definitely do, play around with the whole movement of the camera. So it's definitely a different feel, which I think it's pretty good. It's for a sequel. It shouldn't feel exactly like the first, which this does not feel exactly like the first. There are some parts that feel like it, but overall, it's its own beast, literally. But yeah, I just can't keep. I'm gonna keep saying it. It's good. Nothing too great. You're okay if you miss it in the theaters. It's nothing to really write home about it, but it is very enjoyable to watch and to just take in, for a movie, which I think that's all movies should ask. That's all you should ask for a movie. It's just something that you could sit down for, 2-3 hours, watch something, enjoy it, be entertained by it, and then, relax. So, I liked it overall, but you could skip it if you're not too big of a fan of the first one. It is a lot more action, so if you're looking for some kind of action movie, it's really good. Granted, next week we'll be reviewing Ready Player One, and I have pretty high hopes for it right now, mostly because it's a Steven Spielberg movie for one, and two, it has a ton of crossovers from different genres: music, video games, movies, comics. It's anime. It's pretty intense. How a movie can have so many crossovers, and I hope it lives up to it. If it at least meets my expectations, I think it's gonna be a very great movie. But till then, guys, later.